There we go. All right, now we're recording this for Q&A purposes. But I would like to introduce our speaker for today's Bitcoin meetup, Tron Black, principal software developer for Medici Ventures. He'll be speaking about the Ravencoin Foundation and their roadmap for 2021 and what it looks like. Tron Black, for those of you who know who he is, well-established, influential voice in the cryptocurrency ecosystem. He's going to be speaking to our group about the exciting changes that are happening this year. In particular, he's working on Ravencoin, which is a digital peer-to-peer network that aims to implement a use case specific blockchain designed to efficiently handle one specific function, the transfer of assets from one party to another. It's built on the fork of the Bitcoin blockchain. Ravencoin was launched in January 2018. Is a truly open source project. It focuses on building a useful technology with a strong and growing community, which Tron has been leading the fight for. So, ladies and gentlemen, introduce Tron Black, our speaker. Thank you so much.
Thanks, James. A great introduction. Needs to be updated a little bit because some stuff has changed.
Part we were actually questioning last time, so thank you.
Yeah,
for bringing that.
Yeah. So for those of you who haven't heard, Medici is no more. So it's gone. Medici Ventures is gone. So I was a principal, not the principal, but a principal developer for Medici Ventures. And I got news in July, or at least got told in July that Ravencoin was going to be kind of transferred out of Medici Ventures and into a foundation. And so I said, well, what does that mean exactly? Because Medici Ventures was kind of funding the developers, paying for a team. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, the team's going away and we're transferring this over. So it concerned me. And they said, and you'll be part of that. And so I had to kind of sit down and say, is this something, I mean, I want to be part of Ravencoin, but to kind of be told what to do is kind of not my style. And so we worked through it, and they put together the legal work for creating a foundation. So it's a 501c6 foundation. It's incorporated in Wyoming, and that's because of all the work they've done with the blockchain stuff. So blockchain has its blockchain or digital assets and things like that have a kind of a better status in Wyoming, thanks to some work from Caitlin Long and some of the people that actually have been at the Bitcoin meetups that James has done. So we incorporated there, and then we formed a board. So we currently have a board, consists of Doug Pepe, who's if you're not familiar with him, he's an attorney out of New York, and he's built a Ravencoin wallet called Mango Farm Assets, and has been very involved in the Ravencoin community. And then Jeremy Smith, who is the CTO of Medici Ventures. So that's the current board. So they funded that with some money for the first year, and then they'll fund it for the next 2 years with less money that was being funded with before. And so one of the concerns was, how is the foundation going to kind of survive and that kind of thing. Anyway, that was in July. So transition, a lot happened kind of between July and the end of the year. They funded the foundation. We put together a website, sort of mediocre at the moment. And then a lot has happened since then. So right after the beginning of the year, I was told basically Medici Ventures was going to be turned into a fund. And this is all public information. You can go look it up. But Medici Ventures is being was a development shop, had about 60 developers or so that would help out the portfolio companies. There was about 18 portfolio companies, the biggest one being T0, owning, I think, a majority share at 81% or something of T0, and then of the others, some smaller fraction, but of 18 portfolio companies. That's now being turned into a fund, which will be managed by Pelion Venture Partners, which is a company here in Utah. It's a professional venture partner firm. All that to say that I'm no longer with Medici Ventures, but I am part of the Ravencoin Foundation. We've had an amazing response to the Ravencoin Foundation. Specifically, we've had a lot of support from out of South Korea, and we had Blockchain Tiger, named Joshua, has donated a few $100,000 to the foundation, which is allowing us to kind of pay for developers. And we've also have another community member that's looking to hire 2 full-time developers outside of the foundation to kind of help with the project. And then we've had money from Medici Ventures and from Joshua it allows us to pay developers kind of on a piecework or for specific issues. They're in GitHub, they're specific things. They're adding things to the mobile wallets, adding things, improving things on core, etc. And so we have a bunch of those. Those are all public. I can share that link with you in the chat. Let me throw that in there real quick. And it's not really super complete, meaning we don't have all the issues funded, but part of it is that I need to go through and kind of figure out kind of what's kind of a reasonable thing for these issues. So I'll throw that in there. And then the other thing that happened was Ravencoin dropped down to about 1.2 cents for quite a while, kind of during the bear market. And then it sort of exploded. And so it went up to 28 cents and then down to about 20. It's about 18.5 now, I think. But that's, like 1,500% over what it was, maybe 4 months ago, 5 months ago. So that did really well. And since some of the donations that we did for security audits and for legal fund and things like that were held in Raven, those things also have gone up. And so we have an accounting page. I can put that in there as well. So super transparent accounting. We have 2 different things. We have a bank account, which is funded by Medici Ventures. And then we have crypto accounting. So the first page you'll see on there is the kind of dollar account. And it's mostly paying Google Cloud, AWS for the email, domain, things like that, sort of infrastructure, things that we basically pay via dollars to basically keep seed nodes, some APIs, things like that running. Really, the coin or Ravencoin is not dependent on the foundation, meaning if the foundation went away, Ravencoin will still run because we've made it so that the IPs of a lot of the machines that are in the network that have been around for a long time are built into the software now. So it first starts looking at random IPs and connecting to those nodes. After that, there's kind of a fallback position of some domains that also go to about 84 different IPs that are kind of scattered around the world. But because those IPs are kind of baked into the software, it's really not dependent on the foundation. So the foundation is able to kind of be beside Ravencoin and kind of help, just kind of push things and help and pay developers to improve things, do proposals, let people put in issues, and then we can fund those issues. So anyway, that's the way the foundation is operating. But we do need, and I think that was sort of in the title, we need developers. So we have funds. We have people that are willing to pay full-time developers. We have actually teams that want to build on Ravencoin that are issuing tokens, security tokens and things like that. And they're manually doing stuff to issue tokens, meaning there's a guy who's basically taking a spreadsheet and kind of transferring stuff over and sending manually. And they just need developers and people that can script this and get, so that they can automatically take like spreadsheets or CSV tables and basically send out tokens. So if you're a developer and want to do stuff like that, be involved in crypto, I have people I can introduce you to for full-time, that want to hire full-time, people that want just people to kind of automate stuff and script and kind of tie systems together from between Tokensoft and the blockchain software itself, kind of bridge those 2 things so there's not a manual person in the middle. So mostly I'm introducing developers to people that need the developers. So
really quick, hey Tron.
Yeah.
Have you talked to Kate Woodland about that?
I have not. No.
She would probably be really great because she's connected to all those guys.
Yep.
So
no, that's good. I will reach out to Kate.
Carry on.
So pretty much Overstock it seemed to kind of politely kicked Ravencoin and Medici Ventures out the back door.
Yep.
And gave you $125,000 and said, "Good luck."
Yep. Pretty much.
All
That's a nice way of putting it.
And then the price rallies from 1 cent to 25 cents. And you're like, okay, we'll do our own thing.
Yeah, it did really help. It made a big difference. I mean, we had a kind of a cursory plan to see if we could do a block reward. So if you're familiar with Bitcoin Cash, if you're not familiar, is a split of Bitcoin, but Bitcoin Cash itself has split again. It's split into BCHA and BCHN. I think BCHN is the one you kind of see on the first page of CoinMarketCap. BCHA is the one that's further down. But BCHA did a thing where they're taking some of the block reward to help with development. So they may end up coming back up, but they have a kind of so it was a little bit of a contentious split. We talked about doing a similar kind of thing with the block reward. And so we actually have engaged a law firm that's doing pro bono work on looking at that. So he and his firm have written up a thing of like what that does and make sure it doesn't get into, doesn't make it a security and things like that, which it appears it doesn't. So anyway, all good stuff. But kind of while they were writing that up, it looks like we probably won't need it, just because right now the issue is finding development resources as opposed to being able to pay for development resources, which is a great problem to have. And so we're kind of rocking and rolling there. So yeah, lots of stuff happening. There's people right now working on the Android mobile wallet, kind of getting that fixing some stuff. There's another team, a special interest group, we're calling SIGs, that's kind of broken off, and they're doing an Electrum wallet for Ravencoin, which will have hardware support. It already has, I think, Trezor support, but we have they're working on, I think, other hardware support, which is great. Yeah, and then kind of unrelated to development, but just as an aside, today, this is literally today, there's a site that basically allows you to peg Raven over onto the Binance Smart Chain, which allows you to basically take Raven, it locks it up, puts P-Raven on the Binance Smart Chain, and that allows Raven to basically operate in the DeFi space. So there's a company called OpenDAO that's building smart contracts so that you can basically borrow against your Raven, borrow stable coins against it. And as long as you're over collateralized, that's fine. And then, if it gets too close to the thing, the way that works is some bots can come in and basically get your Raven at a discount if you don't keep it over collateralized enough. But it allows you to borrow against Raven. One of the big advantages of that is that's not a taxable event. You still own your Raven, and you have the stable coin, which is kind of a cool way to both keep Raven and not have to spend it or sell it on the market. So that's all happening.
So back to the Overstock and Medici, so I can kind of understand it a little bit.
Yeah.
So a lot of people thought that Ravencoin was kind of part of Overstock, that it was kind of Patrick had kind of created Ravencoin and it was, Patrick's coin. So
Yeah.
this whole type of split now has actually kind of created almost a fully independent type of cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah. And it was pretty fully independent before that. I mean, I know that it didn't seem like that, right? Because the developers were in Medici and it was kind of created from that and stuff. It was always fairly independent. It just, the people within Overstock were allowed to mine it. So there's a lot of Overstock holders, a lot of T0 holders, a lot of Medici holders. But it was always very independent. I mean, they were never kind of like, hey, you do this or do this for this reason. So yeah, just that perception, I think, of course, went away more so now that it's kind of been, moved out. So yeah.
So you've decided to follow the foundation then, and move with the foundation then, and try to develop Ravencoin.
Yeah. So the I mean, Ravencoin is developed, right? It's running, it runs on its own, right? If the foundation like failed tomorrow, Ravencoin wouldn't go away. It just because it's an open source project. But there's always, and this is true of pretty much every open source project, including Bitcoin, there needs to be somebody kind of protecting the code from stuff. And so, you know, we're still kind of like a little bit playing that role, but also allowing other people to kind of play that role that aren't in the foundation. Right now, the foundation consists of 4 people, some 3 board members, including myself, president, and somebody who's playing treasury secretary and vice president. So it's 4 people. And basically we're just, well, and then all 3 of them have full-time jobs. So I'm kind of the only one that's kind of working on Ravencoin, mostly full-time. And I'm just kind of trying to coordinate a lot of stuff, a lot of, coordinate the accounting, coordinate proposals, coordinate different things. But a lot of the actual work is being done by people outside that are, either volunteering or getting paid through just working on specific tasks. So,
Tron, I've got a question for you.
yeah,
5 years from now, where's Ravencoin going to be?
that's a great question. I don't know.
$1 million.
I think price-wise, I have no idea. As far as how it functions and stuff, I'm expecting that the foundation will provide a little bit of a framework for the development and just to protect the code. And then also, if you look at the foundation website, which is just ravencoin.foundation, it's got a whole bunch of links to everywhere. And so there's still the ravencoin.org website. There's Ravencoin Foundation website, it's ravencoin.world, there's Ravencoin. There's a whole bunch of websites that are just, there's Ravencoin Wiki, there's Ravencoin Land, there's a Korean Ravencoin website, there's a Ravencoin timeline. So it's kind of like distributed, which I think is fantastic, right? The more distributed, the better. The only thing that can't be easily distributed is is that kind of core thing where I can't say anybody can contribute willy-nilly to code because it just needs to be protected. But even that, it's really just the consensus rules that need to be protected. If someone wants to copy Ravencoin and add to it, as long as it doesn't affect the consensus rules, they can do that now. Anybody can. And anything they build, as long as they haven't changed the consensus rules, will work on top of or with the existing network. So that's just kind of the way it works.
One of the things that kind of pops in my head is that so I do a lot of cryptocurrency lending and OTC business, and I work with a lot of cryptocurrency miners. And all of my cryptocurrency miners that I work with, they love Ravencoin. Like they're switching their hash rate from Ethereum to Ravencoin.
Yep.
And it kind of seems like it's almost not even really balanced. Like Ethereum is just this huge network, and everyone's been mining Ethereum, and then now everyone's all of a sudden talking about Ravencoin, but Ravencoin is now a foundation, and the team seems a little bit smaller than it was before, though.
Yeah,
So,
the team is smaller, but I would say the number and size and scope of people working on it has grown. So it's just it isn't like like these 5 people. It's like those 40 kind of thing, but working on it in pieces. So I would say it's more distributed, but you can't point to a team of developers.
Because it seems like most people, once Ethereum decides to go to 2.0 and goes to proof of stake, people are going to have to mine something.
Yep.
Ravencoin is going to be the go-to, right? Like
pretty much. We're pretty consistently number 2. If you go to whattomine.com,
yeah, exactly.
We're pretty consistently number 2.
You guys.
Yep.
So that's good news, right? Because that
it is good news. No, it's great news. It's fantastic. Yeah. So now mining doesn't mean that more coins come out or anything like that, but what it does do is it makes it the coins that do come out are spread thinner, right? So they're spread wider, and the coins that come out, it's going to feel harder to get coins by mining, because as people flow in, the difficulty goes up, and then fewer coins per miner, right? So that's gonna happen. Sometimes that can actually flip on you. So like we may be number 2, but if you doubled the mining or tripled or quadrupled the mining, then you get 1/3 the amount that you would get now, right? So one of two things will happen. Either we drop down the list and we're no longer number 1 profitable for mining. We still may be the largest mining, getting the most mining or whatever, the most hash power. But either the price goes up, which often happens because it's just more secure or whatever, or we flip with another coin, right? So some other coin becomes more profitable, and then it's sort of like, well, then people kind of shift to that, leave, and then come back, and that kind of thing. And so you kind of get this bouncing back and forth, which we did have at one time. We had that where it would get harder to mine, and so you wouldn't make as much, and somebody else would be more profitable, and everybody would leave. It would slosh out, and then it would take longer to find blocks. But we fixed it with a algorithm. We switched from the Bitcoin's algorithm, which adjusted every so many blocks, which on Bitcoin is about 2 weeks worth, and for Ravencoin was about 1.4 days, just because it runs 10 times faster. So you take the 2 weeks, divide it by 10, you get 1.4 days. And the problem is, it would take everybody would be mining. It would take about 0.7 days, and then everybody would slosh out, and it would take about 2.5 days, and it would slosh back in. So it was adjusting like every so many blocks, which was either 0.7 days or 2.4 days. And so anyway, we switched the algorithm to DGW, which is dark gravity wave, which was an algorithm that some other altcoin had come up with, so that didn't happen, because a lot of coins had gotten destroyed by that. Right, this oscillation, and then the oscillation would get so big that it would just get so low, and everybody would leave and then it would just stall. And so now we actually adjust every block. So every block, it readjusts the difficulty. So the difficulty, it changes every block, and that smooths out that curve. So if people leave, it's fine, because we'll basically be maybe a little bit slower for a few blocks, but then it'll basically get easier and easier and easier, and then so it'll balance out. So we're not too worried about that with the slosh thing, because as soon as we fixed that algorithm, we went from this oscillation to we just evened out. So not too worried about that. But it's kind of an exciting time. We also have the halvening coming up in next roughly, last time I calculated, was about January 19th of next year. I just said how many blocks. It's 1 minute per block. It would put it about January 19th of next year. Which puts it just over 4 years since we launched on January 3rd. It's just over that.
You guys are planning on maintaining proof of work regardless.
We have no plans to change. Right. We're using an algorithm called KawPoW, which is a derivative of ProgPoW, which is a derivative of ETH hash, which is actually what Ethereum uses. And so ETH hash, ProgPoW was designed to take up more of the video card, like use its memory, use its shaders, use everything, the parallelism, everything, pretty much use everything about the video card except the video out port, right? So it's really kind of max out a card. And then KawPoW just fixed a few, maybe glitches or glitches, potential insecurities within ProgPoW. We had the ProgPoW people helping us, right? So they found some things that people, not that had ever been exploited, but that could be potentially, and fixed those. So KawPoW is that. So it's a derivative of ProgPoW, and it just uses the card. It also adjusts over time to use more memory. So there will be a day where 4 gig cards might not make it, right? And so people have to start shifting to 5 gig, 6 gig cards and things like that. Right now, 4 gig cards are fine. I think 3 might be okay. 2 are out, but it basically grows. So it's intended to kind of shift with the technology kind of over time as well. And if someone builds an ASIC, it's going to look a whole lot like a video card, right? But without the economies of scale that you get when you're making a gazillion video cards for gamers. So we'll call it ASIC resistant, because ASIC proof, basically is just a challenge. for someone to build one, but ASIC resistant.
So for those of you who don't know what ASIC resistant means, could you just kind of clarify that a little bit?
Yeah, so ASIC stands for Application Specific Integrated Circuit. And it's basically where someone says, hey, this is really profitable mine. Let's make a chip, a specific integrated circuit or a computer chip that just does that really, really, really well. And so, the first ones obviously were for Bitcoin, and they basically did SHA-256 really, really, really fast. And that's all they did. And it was just parallel lines of doing SHA-256, which is a really well-known hashing algorithm. And they basically just built chips that did that. And so then it was just a matter of like making those chips faster by basically putting them on thinner line silicon. So getting them to from 125 nanometer, 90 nanometer, 60 nanometer. I think you're down to like 14 or 12 or something nanometer lines. And they're basically creating these boxes that's all they do is they have lots of these chips running in parallel, and they plug in and they basically mine Bitcoin. So like a S9 or something like that. You plug in, uses about 12 amps, something like that, just right under what a US circuit would support, right? A circuit breaker would support, and they do about, last time I looked, like 14 trillion hashes per second, something like that. And that's all they do. So that's an ASIC. The disadvantage of ASICs,
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
The one directly related to what you've been talking about, I've noticed that my miner has gone like into the toilet about the last 4 weeks. Is that just because so many people are coming back in because of the price has gotten good enough that they just want to?
Yes. Yeah. So here's how it works. Basically, if you were mining when it was 1.2 cents, right, you were probably getting more Raven. They were worth 1.2 cents. And if you're getting, you really have an advantage if you have like cheap electricity or you've already paid for your video cards, things like that. You usually want
solar panels.
Advantage. I know James knows more about this than I do, but you basically want some sort of advantage. But what happens when it goes to 20 cents? And then all of a sudden, like, people say, well, this is profitable. So they move their rigs over to that. And then it'll be profitable for a little while they're moving over, because you're getting maybe the same amount of Raven, but now they're worth 20 cents or 28 cents. Mm-hmm. And then the more people that move over, it basically just, the software is still only going to give out 5,000 Raven per block, plus some fees, a little bit of fees that get collected per block every minute, right? So that's what it does, 5,000 Raven to whoever wins the block. And it's usually a pool, right? So people kind of mining in a pool. And that amount of Raven that's coming out is pretty much fixed, right? Fixed from here till January 19th of 5,000 Raven every minute. And if twice as many people are mining that, then your rig will be getting half as much. And if 4 times as many, it'll be getting 1/4 as much. And if 100 times, then you get 1/100th of. So the amount of Raven that's coming out is fixed.
Right.
How many people are participating will vary, and that algorithm, that DGW algorithm will vary the difficulty every block to just make that adjustment every block to say, I'm going to make it a little bit harder, a little bit easier, and it goes both ways within ranges. So if all of a sudden, like half the miners leave or twice as many, it takes a little while to adjust. It won't go vertical. It'll basically still adjust it within some limits. And that algorithm adjusts every block. And so, yeah, you'll see less Raven. So if twice as many miners come in, you'll see half as much Raven. Now, thankfully, Raven's gone up, I don't know, 1,500% or something. So, but the miners will come in to basically get that reward.
So this is not a result of somebody cracking the ASIC code.
Probably not. We don't know of any ASICs, and if they did, they're probably not dominant. I think what's happening is we are number 1 or number 2, and there's a thing called I think EIP 1559, which basically says that the fees or reward or something like that from the Ethereum mining isn't going to go to the miners, and so people are kind of upset about that. So some of them may be leaving for kind of ideological reasons and saying, "Yeah, what's next? Right? What's the next thing?" And in most cases, or not all the time, but a lot of times, we're next. And so it might get harder to mine. If the price drops, though, then we don't become as profitable. Then people leave, and you get more Raven at lower price. The whole thing just auto adjusts. It's actually pretty amazing.
I know from the marketplace standpoint, GPUs that were 4 gigabytes that were mining Ethereum, after Ethereum did its last upgrade, they had to upgrade their GPUs to 6 gigabytes or 8 gigabytes. And so all of a sudden their 4 gigabyte GPUs were kind of worthless.
Gotcha.
So what do you do when you make an investment in a 4 gigabyte GPU?
Yep.
You mine Ravencoin.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I just see.
And eventually we'll switch that too. And what we found is that, because we're doing the same thing, sort of increasing the threshold. So those may kick off. What ends up happening is it kicks off like the Windows one or the Linux one first, because the drivers take up some or something like that. So it won't be all of a sudden, but it'll be kicking off like one or the other platform first as it hits that threshold.
So my second question, on a totally different note, what's the best way to contact you about volunteering to participate with some development?
Yeah, so the best way would be tron@ravencoin.foundation. So that's my email. You can also DM me at Tron Black on Twitter.
Okay.
I usually
Put
see
that in the
those.
chat, Tron, just when
Yeah.
you put it up.
Yep. If I get super busy, I may not respond to these right away, because when Ravencoin went up from a penny to 28 cents, things got like avalanche kind of thing. So I'm also on Discord. I'm also on Telegram, but those tend to fall. I usually don't check those when stuff's coming in really fast. So
I was just curious because I'm retired and bored.
yeah, okay. Well, we can use your help, and then if you look at that Ravencoin.foundation/proposals, there's stuff there. Also, there's because some of it is Java, because it's Android, and some of it's Swift because it's iOS, and a lot of it's C or C++ because it's on Core. There's also some work. You can also join the SIG for Electrum, which is just special interest group. It was just our way of saying, hey, we've got all these projects that everybody wants to work on, and somebody said we need to have smaller groups, so it's not trying all being coordinated from one place. And so they're just kind of breaking out into special interest groups to work on different parts of Ravencoin. So which is great. I mean, this is probably more decentralized than Bitcoin at this point.
I think a lot of these questions were answered that are in the chat here, but I wanted to highlight maybe one of them that might have been missed.
Okay.
And that's what is the most successful thing that has been tokenized with Raven?
Oh, that's a great question. Let me see.
That's a good question.
Yeah. So some of the bigger ones, some of the more interesting ones. So Tanaga is a security token that's being tokenized, which represents some land in the Philippines that they're building a resort. And so that one's got kind of legal wrappers and stuff. And I don't think you can participate on that one if you're in the US, unless you're accredited. That same group is going to be doing the Millennium Sapphire, which is you can look that one up just on Google or whatever. Millennium Sapphire. It's kind of a record-holding sapphire in terms of size, and then it was etched by a whole bunch of artists that practiced on material first and all kinds of stuff. So it's more of a very unique, one of a kind sapphire piece that's being tokenized, so you can be part owner. That one may also probably also requires being accredited. There's other ones that are NFTs. NFTs are hot right now, and Ravencoin's one of the best platforms for that, just because you get the unique name. Once you get a unique name, you kind of become the artist that can create any unique assets under that. So once you get a root token, whatever that root token is, right? Those are 500 Raven, which used to be $5, $6, is now close to $100 to get one. But once you have that, you can create unique tokens under that by adding hashtag and then some other characters, and that has to be unique. It allows an artist to basically create unique tokens for their artwork and guaranteed to kind of be from them, which has a kind of a provenance perspective, meaning you know the origin.
Do you have a link to that? Because that was going to be my next question following up, was the NFT thing.
Yeah, so let me do this. I'll put Tron Black
I'd love to talk about NFTs.
medium.com.
I'm like getting to the point where if I hear the word NFT anymore, I'm like,
Yeah, I know.
It's in the news one more time.
It's crazy. We really did have a fun auction though. Let's see.
I got some Bitcoin burning a hole in my Nano. Needs to buy some NFTs.
So I put in 2 links, the tronblack.medium.com and the blog.ravencoin.email. So those are 2 places where if you kind of search for creating assets and things like that, there's also videos of ones that people have done it, right? Made videos and things like that. These are just the ones I know of because I wrote a lot about it back mostly in 2018. Yeah. So that's kind of 2 places to.
I remember that when we were first starting to talk about ERC 721s, and you were like, "Hey, you can do that with Ravencoin."
Yep. So on the blog post thing, I have one that specifically is Raven unique assets versus ERC 721 pros and cons kind of thing. It doesn't tell you how to create them, but it kind of says, if I was going to do one, why would I use one or the other? Some of the advantages. So I think I wrote up another one. I don't know if I've released it yet.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyway, watch those 2 spaces. That's kind of where the NFT thing is going. Also, not everybody was here when we started talking about this, but Ravencoin Campus is a virtual environment based on Virbela, VIRBELA, that allows you to go in and you can basically jump into this world. And let me see if can I share my screen, James?
Absolutely. Do I need to give it access here? Here, I can do that real quick.
Okay. There you go. That's the auction. So we had an
very
auction.
Game of Thrones like.
Yeah, that was just the advertising for it. Let me see. Try share screen. Yes. So here. You guys see that? It's so this was people participating in the auction. The gentleman in the cowboy hat up here was the auctioneer, and he was doing the auction patter and stuff. A professional licensed auctioneer from the South, and he did a great job. And people were bidding via chats. And in this environment, you can raise your hand, you can dance, you can. I dance a lot better in this environment than I do in real life. It's actually pretty fun. Anyway, it's a neat environment. This is a concert hall in the environment, but there's also other places where you can hang out by the beach and drive speedboats around the island. And there's offices where you can go in and put stuff on the screen. People can pop themselves up on the screen, kind of Zoom-like on the walls and where the browsers are, things like that. So anyway, it's kind of a neat place. I put a link in the chat, I think early on there, and you can.
I think a lot of people have been doing conferences actually in this environment, right? So
Yes. So there have been multiple conferences. There's an event calendar. There's actually 3 volunteers that are running we're calling them Ravencoin campus managers. And so if you want to do like a Ravencoin event, kind of doesn't have to be exactly, Ravencoin. Probably crypto would work. You can use the environment, and they'll put you on a calendar, and you can invite people. And there's a theater that has 700 seats, but you have the ability as the speaker to press a button and it reduces the seating. So if you only have 200 people, it pushes everybody to the front. And you can dim the lights, and you can put chairs on the stage to do panelists. You can put stuff. There's 3 large screens. We've had like the event thing on one screen, and the person's basically Zoom screen like I'm doing here on one screen, and then the slides they're doing on the other screen, and everybody can see that from inside the environment. Anyway, kind of a cool place.
Awesome. Hey, Tron, I'm
Yep.
curious, along with the NFT thing, so does, with the hashtag groupings underneath the NFT, like the original asset that you have, is that similar to, like, would each hashtag be attached to somebody's wallet address so that you could have multiple owners or multiple royalties shared under the same, and like the same?
Yeah, so the one thing it doesn't have royalty share. So it isn't a smart contract based. So that is the one thing it doesn't have. Now it has some other stuff
That's a hard thing to find. That's a really hard thing to find, I'm finding.
That's the cool thing.
Yeah, no, we may end up having, there's kind of 2 pathways that we may end up going that will allow that. Right now, we just had a thing to bridge Raven over to the Binance Smart Chain, which is smart contracts, has Solidity, has all of that. But right now it's only Raven and not the Raven assets. And then the other one is RSK, which is also basically a Solidity-based, EVM-based smart contract, but it's based on Bitcoin. And even Bitcoin gets bridged over to RSK, meaning the value is basically becomes our BTC over as a token over on RSK. And so we should be able to bridge our Raven over there without too much trouble. And then we're hoping, though, that the next step is to be able to bridge assets over there. So have some sort of unique token name that you can basically hop your asset over onto another chain, whether that's an NFT or whether it's a security token and you want to trade or something like that. We're hoping that'll happen.
So would that be similar to the ERC 721 swap to ERC 20? Is that kind of what that would look like?
I don't know. ERC 20 is like a whole bunch of tokens, right? And ERC 721 is a token, one of them, right? So our equivalent ERC 20 is just Ravencoin assets, right? Ravencoin, you can create your own token. You can say I want 1 to 21 billion of them. You can say how divisible they are. That's like ERC 20. And then our unique assets are like ERC 721. It's one of them. You can attach artwork through IPFS, things like that. So
right, but I've been hearing that there's been development where you can swap the ERC, not necessarily swap it, but you somehow like merge it with ERC 20, and then you like take it back off or something. I don't know. I've never done it before.
Okay, yeah, I don't know the answer to that, because ERC 721 is built on top of ERC 20, so the issue and the transfer functions and stuff exist already in it. It's just ERC 721s basically have one, and they do the same thing we do, which is basically allow you to kind of attach like IPFS information and embed that in there. The problem with Ethereum is just that it's ridiculously expensive to use at the moment. Now that may change. It may change with ERC or with Ethereum 2.0, may change or whatever. But right now it's absurdly expensive. I mean, it's like you do something, it's like, something simple, it's like $20. I just want to move a token, it's $20. And if you want to move like, you know, a complex smart contract with swaps and adding data and things like that, I mean, it could be hundreds of dollars per, you know, for fees, which kind of makes it impractical unless you're kind of aggregating maybe millions of dollars of wealth and things like that and doing it kind of in bulk. But
Right.
that's not true though of RSK, and it's not true of Binance Smart Chain yet, right? So we today we have this ability to hop over to the Binance Smart Chain, at least move Raven over, and it doesn't have the same fee. Stuff is in the, you know, 4 cents, 11 cents, you know, that kind of thing, instead of like $20, $100, you know, kind of range. So I think those will start to be competitive here pretty quick.
Cool.
Kind of I don't know, I kind of want to talk about the general marketplace actually, because I know you've been in the space for a while, but just to step away from Ravencoin, what do you think about Bitcoin and Ethereum and Binance Coin and the overall marketplace? I mean,
I love it.
Seems like we're in a bull market right now, so I mean, the price can only go up forever, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, skipping, I don't want to talk about price on Ravencoin, but talk about, well, general market. I think Bitcoin is crushing it as a kind of an asset that is kind of providing a base store of value. I mean, there's no physics prevents it from going up forever, right? I mean, but it's not, right? It went down over the last week, went from 58 to 54, 53 or something, and it's back to, I don't know, 57, 58,000. I mean, Michael Saylor, right? He's brilliant for the space. He's an awesome communicator. He basically said, hey, it's the devaluing of the dollar that's causing this. You know, the more they print, the more you kind of have to say, well, I got to give you in stocks or assets or real estate or Bitcoin or something so that I can lock in the value as they print more. Michael Saylor does this, talks about it extraordinarily well. In fact, if you haven't listened to it, I think it's, let me find it because I don't want to get the wrong
I think as a
thing.
corporation, I think the playbook right now is buy a few $1 million or $1 billion worth of Bitcoin and then make your announcement to the world. Hey, guess what? We bought Bitcoin, and then watch the price go up 10%. And then if you're a company, your stock price goes up too. So it's like this kind of pump and dump, but legally you can do it that way.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a podcast in the chat here. This is one of the best that I've heard. I think it's fantastic. It is long. It's Michael Saylor, but it's one of my favorites. So yeah, if you get a chance to listen to that podcast, it's great.
I second that. I've listened to that one. That's a really good one.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, he's done other ones, but this was my favorite of the ones he did. Yeah, if you're not familiar with him, he basically, how many, raise a hand, people with the cameras on, who knows who Michael Saylor is? Okay.
Oh.
Okay, so Michael Saylor is a CEO of MicroStrategy. It's a company that does, like, I don't know, software as a service or enterprise software, and he basically had $500 or $450 million in the bank, and he's the CEO, and he's like, hey, they're printing money. This money in the bank is not, you know, I'm still going to have 450 million and plus whatever we make, profitable company. We're still going to afford $450 million in the bank, but the money is not going to buy as much as it did like each year, right? So he's recognizing that, you know, they say 2%, whatever. He's like, it's not 2%. You know, he thinks it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 15% devaluing of the dollar. And so he's like, I got to do something with this. And so he's like, do I look at gold? So he starts looking at gold. So he says, oh, you should look at Bitcoin. He's like, what? That, you know, and so he basically starts looking into it. Smart guy. And he just says, yep, that's the answer. So he's like, yeah, I may get small parts of the story wrong, but basically he says, all right, I'm going to take $225 million, half of this money, and I'm going to put it in Bitcoin, which is a lot. And so, I mean, there's legal work with that, accounting work, all that kind of stuff, talking to his board, there's all kinds of stuff he had to go through to do that. So anyway, he goes through that and he basically says he's going to do it. And he tells his investors, right? So this is a public company, right? It trades under MSTR, public company. And he basically says, I'm going to do this. He said, if you don't like this, I get it. It's controversial. I'll give you a premium over what the market's paying for the stock. And so he had a few takers, but he basically did that. And then he's like, you know what? The rest of it is melting, right? In value. So, hey guys, I'm going to put the rest of this in Bitcoin. So he puts like $450 million in Bitcoin. And so he'd be kind of like Patrick Byrne all of a sudden, when he started taking Bitcoin, he's like on the circuit, right? Talking, he's on podcasts and all that kind of stuff. Well, Michael Saylor all of a sudden is everywhere on all these, like big podcasts on Pomp, and all these different podcasts. And so on these podcasts, he's like, oh yeah, it's a no-brainer. I mean, every company's going to have to do this, right? Eventually, either connect their balance sheet or their income statement to Bitcoin, because it's just going to eat the world. And he's like, in fact, I mean, it would even make sense to just borrow money and put it in Bitcoin. So next thing you know, he's like, I'm going to issue $400 million in bonds at 0.75% interest, right? So 75 basis points. I'm going to issue points. And so he goes to issue these bonds, and all of a sudden they're oversubscribed, meaning more people wanted to buy these bonds than he was planning on issuing. So he borrows $650 million at 0.75%, and he put it all in Bitcoin. And I think his cost basis is somewhere, the first batch, I think, was somewhere in the neighborhood of 11,000. And the next batch, I mean, all told, somewhere in maybe $24,000 or something like that. Anyway, at least doubled, some of it quadrupled or more. And so it's now a multi-billion-dollar company that people are now investing in the stock to say, well, I'm just going to buy this stock to have exposure to lots of Bitcoin, a little bit like GBTC. Anyway.
One of the best parts to that story as well, Tron, is when
Yeah.
Michael Saylor decided to have like a crash course and invited hundreds of companies to sort of a round table and be like, hey companies, let me show you how to buy Bitcoin. Like, it's the cool thing to do. And so like, all of a sudden,
he did a summit, right? So he's like, hey companies, I'm gonna give you everything that we did, right? All the legal, I'll let you talk to my attorneys, let you talk to my accountants, I'll let you, and so he invited everybody. He invited Coinbase and Binance and Kraken and everybody to do a half-hour thing. And he basically said, yeah, this is how you do it, right? Here's how you account for it, here's how you do it legally, here's how you, and he gave all that away. He had like 600 companies sign up for that summit. It was awesome.
And I think what you're going to see now is kind of like Tesla and Elon Musk. By the way, we just added some Bitcoin to our balance sheet, to our treasury, and they're going to make this announcement. And I think it's just going to become the normal thing to do. It's just everybody adds Bitcoin, and it's not private companies, it's governments too. Small countries that they've struggled with their own kind of monetary system are just going to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet. And Bitcoin does eat everything, right? That's just the reality of it.
So that was super exciting. That was kind of happening over the end of last year, beginning of this year. So pretty fun.
Okay, so
I'm pretty bullish on the whole space.
How long does the bull run last? Because this is different than like a retail type of FOMO. It's more institutional, right? I mean, like when we broke past 20,000, which was the all-time high from before, I mean, we broke it. I mean, like we went not to 30, 40 or 50, $60,000 plus, and then it's everyone's 75, 100 right now. So I mean, what do you think? Just your personal, not financial advice.
Total speculation, not financial advice, but I think it does kind of what it's doing now until it breaks through 61, and then it takes off again. It may go down a little bit, like just depending on what's going on, because there's a bunch of stuff that like where they come out and they do extra regulations or extra this or more tax, things like that. Those happen. They tend to kind of push stuff down a little bit. But I think once it presses through 61, and I think it's going to break loose and run again.
Have you looked at Ethereum at all? I mean, number 2 to the crypto
Yeah.
coin market cap. I mean, their fees are incredibly high. I mean, it's
Yep.
fueled by the DeFi space and NFT space. I mean, how do you think that coin fares throughout this whole process?
So I think it's still the king of smart contracts, right? So the stuff is on there, but I think as people move over to the different smart contract chains, right? So they're going to move all the technology. All the technology is going to start being on all the chains. So you're going to have Yearn Finance and AAVE and Uniswap and SushiSwap and PancakeSwap and all these different smart contracts. They're going to be able to run on any of these platforms that are EVM compatible, Ethereum Virtual Machine compatible. So those can all be moved over. And then each of those chains all of a sudden has its own ecosystem of lending, borrowing, trading, swapping, right? So every one of them. And so then you're like, well, why would I spend ridiculous fees if I can do it over here? Unless the thing that you want to trade with or be with or whatever is only on Ethereum. But that'll start to blend and blur, especially as the smart contract things start getting the ability to hop chains. I mean, that really, this thing today was one of the first, besides like maybe a DEX or something where there was some centralized stuff component to it. This thing today is one of the first areas where Raven has just hopped over onto another chain, and you can hop over and hop back. And so you can put you can take your Raven and it locks it up, puts P Raven, mints P Raven, and then when you come back and take the P Raven and send it burns it and gives the Raven back to whoever owned that P Raven. So you're basically hopping chains, and I think that's going to be the thing where the chains compete for volume and applications and stuff, and it's just going to be people going, well, I'm going to move over here where it costs 11 cents instead of $10. And other ones are like, yeah, but the $10 doesn't bother us because we're trading, $500 million at a time. And so the $10 is meaningless, right? But for somebody who wants to earn interest on, $100 and get 10%, right? Then, to pay $100 in fees would wipe them out. And so, I think it's just going to start bridging between all the chains. I think it's exciting. I love it.
Awesome.
You know what it reminds me of? And this is just like a weird connection thing or whatever, but something fun to think about. But when Rome fell and there were all those little tribes that came in, there were like the Visigoths and there were like a bunch of different ones, and they all came in and started, and there were just tons of little groups of them. That's what this kind of reminds me of, is we have these little armies where, it's not necessary. It's kind of like, I don't know, we just have all these little teeny armies of.
Yeah. Do you want to say on a recorded Zoom call what Rome is in your analogy?
What Rome is? No, I don't.
Okay.
You know what it is, though. You know what it is. But that's what I think of, and I agree with the excitement. I mean, it's kind of scary too a little bit, but it's interesting because now, I mean, it's completely different because everything's done online. We have these little armies of I call them, like super nerds, and a lot of people don't even realize that this is happening.
Yeah, I know.
It's crazy.
I know. I get amazed. I get amazed because I feel like I'm like experimenting stuff and I don't know the stuff that's happening. All of a sudden I'll just find some new thing and it's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And it's got all this depth and people and stuff. And it's like all of a sudden you're like exploring and going, I had no idea this exists.
I know, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
That's like the little Visigoths. They have this whole history and this whole, community. And this is what we've been talking about, guys, for a while now, and it's all unfolding, so it's cool.
Do you guys kind of feel like the hype hasn't quite gotten to that FOMO mania yet? I see it on CNBC, you know, I see people talking about it on the news, but like I think the coronavirus has kind of almost taken over the mainstream media, and like the Bitcoin stuff is still kind of underneath the radar a little bit. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, Bitcoin broke, you know, whatever, but it's
I
not
think
like
Interesting.
everywhere.
I think it hits every once in a while, right? When it hits an all-time high, right? Then it hits the news for a week, and people are like, "Oh, I thought that died," and then and then does it again. And but yeah, I think, but a lot of this stuff is underwater. You just don't see it unless you're digging. I mean, it's amazing how
Yeah.
much it's growing and connecting. That's the other part, right? Between sort of Chainlink and these other projects that are linking chains together, and also bridging in oracles and stuff. I mean, it's like this whole thing is just growing and growing and growing, but no, I don't think anybody can keep up with it. I mean, nobody can keep up with all the stuff that's happening, even if they're crypto
If
nerds.
it was full
Just
time,
isn't enough bandwidth for a human to keep up with all the stuff that's going on.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. It's a lot.
Any questions from anybody else in the group? While we have Tron here, I mean, one of the best and brightest minds in the cryptocurrency space. Always love your opinion.
I got a question,
Yeah.
and anybody can chime in. I'm looking at doing some planning for a trust or an estate for myself, and want to have my crypto passed on to beneficiaries. Any thoughts about a sound, secure way to do that? I hear bits and pieces out there, but nobody really has, from what I can tell, a really good plan how to do that.
Yeah, there's sophisticated ones where you have kind of a multi-key system, and then there's a website that service that will let you have a key or anything sent right when you die. It's like when I die or something, whenidie.com or something like that. You can have that key kind of show up so that if somebody had, like a lawyer had 1/2 and then or 1/3, and then this site that has that can email has another part, right? That way the two don't come together. So there's that. The other one that I think is kind of cool that's that I got involved in is the Ballet Wallet. So the Ballet Wallet is this, it's kind of like a paper wallet, except that it has a security hologram on it, and the private keys underneath, and you have to scratch off a certain section. In fact, let me grab one real quick.
I'm glad I asked that question.
I actually, Tron, I think we might be on the same page here. I actually had bought some crypto art.
Yeah.
When I was at Satoshi Roundtable last year, and it had the QR code, and so I'm just hiding my Bitcoin on the artwork, and then it's offline. It's a paper wallet. If something happens to me, family gets it. But
so this is a Ballet Wallet. So it comes in a plastic case. You can pop open. So it has this hologram. There's this yellow part right here, and there's a yellow sticker underneath this silver sticker that has the private key. So you can scan this right today, right? And you can see what balance is in it. There's a thing that you have to scratch off here, and it's underneath here is laser etched a password to the encrypted private key that's under here. So you have to have both pieces of information, that and this. And I think the main reason for that is the manufacturing of these. You go, well, wait a minute, somebody would have had the private key. Well, the way they were manufactured is part of it's done in Las Vegas and part of it's done in China. And so those two kind of haven't ever met, other than after one piece is put on, covered, sealed. It's got this tamper resistant thing. If you peel it, you see a honeycomb thing. And then this part right here is kind of a scratch off. And so you kind of know, I mean, you're trusting one person, basically Bobby Lee. It's Charlie Lee's brother, the guy who created Litecoin. He also sold one of the biggest exchanges. He doesn't need money. Anyway, he made a custom one for us, right? So we have a Ravencoin on it, but there's also ones with Bitcoin logos and things like that. There's gold plated ones that are collectible, etc. They're all serialized. The software that you use with this, you basically scan it with the Ballet software and it shows you your balance. But not only does it show you your balance, so this one actually has a Ravencoin address right here, but even the Ravencoin ones that are custom with Ravencoin have a Ravencoin address. If I scan it with the Ballet Wallet, you can say add coin, and you can add whatever coins you want. Ethereum coins, Bitcoin, Litecoin, there's a whole bunch of them, not all of them, but a lot of them. And then it gives you the deposit address for Bitcoin, Litecoin, etc. So you can store basically a whole bunch of coins on one of these. The advantage to this, you can put this like in a safety deposit box or something like that. You have to keep this physically secure. But the nice part is you know, if your family gets this later, right, out of the safety deposit box, it's not like, you know, 6 parts, some, you know, key, it's not some weird thing, and you know that it hasn't been tampered with, right? So it's you know, as long as this is sealed, nobody can spend it. Anyway, they're kind of cool. It's kind of like a non-electronic paper wallet, and to spend from it is pretty easy, but then you have to actually you know, peel this up. So you peel that up, you scratch this off, you type in the password, you scan the private key, it's all with the Ballet software, and you say how much you want to send of which coin. And it just basically takes the password, decrypts the private key, and sends that coin. And then after that, you know, you can still kind of peel this back, you know, down, but it's tampered with at that point. It's not tamper resistant or tamper evident, I guess. It's a better way of putting it. After that, you know, you can still store it after that, and then the software itself that you use forgets the private key. It's not something that it keeps. It just uses that one time, signs the transaction, broadcasts it, and then forgets it, right? So you don't need to worry about it being kind of, you know, your phone being kind of compromised for the rest of the coins. Anyway, if you guys want any of these, I still have a bunch. They're about $35 plus about $7 to ship it to you if you want one. You can also buy them from, what's that?
I want one.
Okay, all right. I take
want 10.
crypto and stuff, so I still have a bunch. Most of them are sealed in cardboard boxes.
Do you have a reference for more information about that?
Yeah. Let me just check, make sure I get the website right.
Here, I got it.
Probably balletwallet.com, but
I got it. It's,
balletcrypto.com. Okay.
I just put the link on the chat. Hey, so Gary had a question that let's see, that I missed. Let's see, repeat. How many Raven coins are being generated?
5,000 every minute.
So it's not 10,000 every minute like Raven or like Dogecoin. Do you guys have a limit or a?
We do. It's capped. Yep.
What's
We
the
did have a
cap
hack.
on that?
We did have a hack, and there was some extra ones that came out, so you might want to factor those in.
Oh, I
But
remember that.
what's that?
I remember that.
Yeah, but in general, 21 billion eventually. All right, so but about half of those will be out by January 19th, and then after that, after January 19th, half as many come out. Right, so 2,500 every minute for the next 4 years, and then 1,250, and then 625, and it halves every 4 years, just like Bitcoin. So we're in think of it like being the first 4 years of Bitcoin, where everything's like, there's just tons of them coming out. People are turning off their laptops. They're not mining anymore because it's too hot, right? Stuff like that. So we're in that phase of Ravencoin's release.
Cool. Did that answer your question, Gary?
You're muted.
Do we have any other questions?
Yeah.
Oh, Gary.
I think it was the other
No,
Gary.
we're just,
Okay.
yeah, the other Gary, yeah. I was just trying to understand a little bit more what that was implicating and how many were coming out now. But you're saying we're approaching the halfway mark, and then the hashing will change.
Correct.
So,
Yep. So roughly January the 19th, last time I checked, will be about half.
I'm
Yep.
curious.
20,
I'm curious, Tron, what's your take on Dogecoin these days?
So I never, I don't take myself or even the space too seriously, and I like that aspect. So I actually like Dogecoin. I think it's fun. I woke up one day and saw that like Elon Musk had said something about Dogecoin. I'm like, it's already run up, and so I'm laying there in bed going, I should get some, and then I'm like, no, it's all right. I'm just gonna FOMO into this thing. It's gonna be a disaster. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna kick myself more if I don't get them and it keeps going up than I will if I buy them and it goes to half or to zero even. I just have to be part of this, as part of the story. And so I jumped out of bed and bought some. But anyway, it did spectacularly well for the next week or so, and I think I'm still ahead. But yeah, it was. So I like it. I mean, I don't like that it will continue to always come out, and things like that, right? So I'm not switching from Bitcoin to Doge, but I have some. And I had to buy Tron as well, right? Just sort of namesake and yeah. So
Cool. That's fair.
Hey Tron, Jake Sparks here. We've met a couple times. Good to see you again.
thanks.
Yeah, I've been working in automation for quite some time now. So when you were talking about reading things from a CSV file and connecting that to a service, that's kind of the name of my game. I'm working full time though. So I think the best thing for me to do, and correct me if I'm wrong, to participate in this, because I want to, is just to take a look at ravencoin.foundation/proposals.
Yep.
And just take a look there and see if there's anything I can tackle and just get started that way.
Definitely. And keep an eye on that, because the bottleneck there is literally me kind of like guesstimating at how many, what I think this is going to take. And I'll probably miss some of them. I'll probably make some of them like too much money and some of them not enough money, and some of them, get close. And so, yeah, people will jump on the ones that I underestimate or whatever, and things like that. But there's a whole bunch of other issues that I just haven't had time to say, oh yeah, this is about what it'll take and put it on there. But people started picking them up quicker now. So there's 2 that are done. I have to pay out and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. I mean, it's always nice to get paid for that kind of stuff, but that's not necessarily my main motivation. I just want to contribute to some kind of crypto project, and this seems like a great one.
Yeah, and for all skill sets, right? We've got some stuff that's C, some that's Java, some that's if anybody here, developer or whatever, we have one that's going to be React Native. That's going to be, we want to build. So there's a wallet called Blue Wallet, and we want to have a Raven version of that, of Blue Wallet, that supports assets. Right now, our wallet, it works. We have a Windows one, or not a Windows, Android and an iOS one, but it syncs the whole chain. And so for people who kind of jump on now, right, and it has to go through 3 years of like checking for any Raven, it just takes a long time. Whereas the Blue Wallet's based on APIs, right? So it's just like, what do you have? What's in this address? API, give me your UTXOs and your balances, and it stores the keys, right? Just it's not it's not a centralized thing, but as far as getting the data, it grabs it from APIs, and so that way it pops up. With your keys would just pop up and with your balances right away and be really fast. So we want to get that built. Yeah, and then also, so we want that supporting assets, and then on that one we also want it be able to be white labeled, so that someone can say, oh, I want that, but I only want it for my gift cards, right? And that way, if you have a little bit of Raven and then the gift tokens for, you know, whatever the tokens are, or for NFTs, you could have a wallet that has its own, you know, color, look, branding, and icon, but the rest of it, and then a filter to say, I'm not worried about all the other tokens except for the ones that work in my store or my project or my game or my whatever. And so we want to get a wallet that people can do a project, get a wallet, and then, you know, connect the two. And
Exciting.
You know, Tron, it's, you know, I admit that I haven't really kept up with your, with Ravencoin's project, but just having kind of listened in on what you've been saying and knowing a little bit from the history before, it's really admirable and honorable that you guys stick to such a decentralized community, and the heart of Ravencoin is really you know, stays true to the whole mission for what we're doing here. And I just want to say that that is really cool.
oh, thanks. Yeah.
It's really, really cool to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And I
think
know that-
I feel like the more we do it, the more people recognize it. And so it
Mhm.
sets itself apart from, you know, kind of the we started as an ICO type companies, right? The ones that are kind of legally potentially in trouble and all that kind of stuff too. So, you know, it kind of separates itself by being decentralized.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have so much respect for that. And I think it's really awesome that you guys have, I mean, even through like, you know, the recent, you know, Medici kind of throwing you out the back door and all of that, you know, it's pretty cool to see.
Gently
your past
pushed
with
us
it.
out with money. So it was nice. of them.
Really? Yeah, if you want to, yeah, say that, then that's fair. But
I'm pretty happy that Tron, you stuck with the project as well. So thank you
yeah,
so much
absolutely.
for sticking with the
Absolutely.
project and also just talking with us today. I mean, I kind of feel like we're like a small little group in Utah, you know, who just love cryptocurrency, and the fact that
Yeah.
you get to talk to us is amazing. So I really
Yeah,
appreciate
no,
that. We really
and if
appreciate
you guys,
that.
if you
Yeah.
guys want, you can use this Ravencoin Foundation like campus too. It's really fun. The link is in the chat. It's I know it's always scary downloading stuff, you know, for crypto people downloading anything and running it, but it's a you know, it's a 3D environment, so you can put it in a, you know, in a virtual environment if you want to run it, but it's pretty
Cool.
cool.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I think that'll be great for coming from.
They actually have a it's in beta, but they actually have a way. One of the people when we started holding our board meetings in there, and so they were able to hook it up to VR as well. So instead of being a
cool.
character kind of running around where you see the character running around, you are the character running around in that virtual space. So that is possible if you have a fast enough computer and the Oculus.
That's
That's
awesome.
awesome. So I'm now going to work on making more Ravencoin merchandise for my little.
Yeah.
For crypto.
So if you do that, also there's a in the virtual environment there's kiosks. There's an exhibit hall, right, where everybody gets their own little carpeted thing with their own screen that always runs and that kind of thing, and you can go put your stuff in there. And so when people are wandering through the exhibit hall, it has your branding, your look, your screen, your website, just always there, right? It's almost like a physical, it's not physical, but it's, you know, it's always there. It's always present.
Awesome.
Yeah, this environment is always there. And so people, as they run around, they can see different things.
Rad. I love that. That's
All right,
awesome.
guys. Well, I wanted to thank you, Tron, for coming and speaking with us today. I'd like to thank everyone for joining the Bitcoin meetup, the pandemic edition, asking questions, and you know, it's really good to see you. Hopefully, we can actually have a space that we can do this again in person sometime soon. But for now, really appreciate you guys being online. And so can we give Tron Black a round of applause for speaking with us today? So you can just turn on your mics on off mute. Thank you, Tron.
Thanks for coming and listening. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tron. It's been awesome.
Thank you very much for your efforts.
Thank you a bunch, all of you,
Oh.
for putting this together. Good to see you.
And
Good
I,
to see you too, Lynn.
and I think, Michelle, you're going to do an NFT one coming up pretty soon, right? Specifically on NFTs and what they are and how they work.
Yeah, it I was hoping to have some good news this evening, but you know, I'm gonna kind of spill the beans just to this little group here, but so I'm actually working on I've been wanting to do a mural project for a couple years, pretty much ever since I first got into the Bitcoin space. I've been wanting to kind of merge the crypto community with the art community here in Utah, and it looks like it's sort of starting to happen now. I think you know, I've reached out. I don't know if you guys know Derek Dyer, but he's over the Utah Arts Alliance. So he does a lot of the art community. He's well connected with all that. And so anyway, I've reached out to him before and he just didn't know what I was talking about, didn't care, whatever. And now with NFTs being everywhere, he's like, what's going on? Everybody keeps asking me about NFTs, Michelle, like, you know, and so he and I had a meeting, but anyway, that's kind of a side note. So the project is basically coming together, crossing my fingers. We're kind of at the last little stretch here, but I'm working on doing a mural project that will be the first NFT / AR mural experience. So we're just in the last little, we're sending in the last proposal for that and getting that going. So if that goes through, then more than it being you know, like a presentation, that's where the whole pizza party event will come into place. It'll actually be a live, like, come check it out kind of a thing, and then we'll kind of go from there. But I have some ideas, and I'm really hoping that it'll come together. It's so funny to plant a seed, you know, 3 years ago, and to finally have it kind of grow where people, you know, I've never really had that experience before where, you know, I'm like, hey, I know this thing that's really cool. And then people are like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then you plant the seed, and then, you know, 3 years later, it actually kind of grows it sprouts, kind of like a wildflower, you know, it just sprouts from nowhere.
I feel like I'm on the cutting edge right now. So hopefully we'll be able to announce that soon then, right? So
yeah, so hopefully, I'm hoping I'll be able to announce it within the next, we'll give it maybe 10 days.
all right. Well, hopefully the next Bitcoin meetup will be on NFTs, and it will be at a pizza parlor. All right.
Yep. You
Well,
should also
We'll go on.
talk to the people in this Verbella, in this environment, in this we're setting up an art hall so that there can be art pieces on the wall for sale and things like that. It's an entire virtual hall, but we're setting up an art hall for that. So just for art. And there's a whole sub project with Project 33 that does those coins, the glass coins and things like that. They're basically kind of heading it up. So anyway,
cool.
if you want to connect with those people, let me know.
Spurbella?
So Verbella is the virtual environment. It's Project 33 is and you probably talked to them before. Look at Project 33. They do glass art, but they're the ones kind of heading up, trying to get all the artists to come into this environment and help fill this art hall.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, I'll check that out. Thanks, Tron.
All right, guys. Well, thank you
Okay.
so much for joining us. We are going to try to have these on a more frequent basis, especially during the bull market. So that way, if somebody's lost, has questions, needs a little bit of guidance, we're here for you. So if you need anything, feel free to email myself or Michelle, or even better, the Bitcoin Meetup has discussions. So if you have a question, throw it in there. You'll probably get a question answered a lot faster than just emailing us. Also, there's a Facebook group as well. So if you post something on Facebook, somebody in the group can answer that a lot faster than we can. So just letting you guys know. So thanks so much. All right. Thanks a
Good
lot,
seeing
guys.
you guys. Have a good night, you guys. Thanks, Tron.
Bye.
Thank you.
Tron.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
James, before you leave,
Thank you.
Can you post your email on here, James, for us?
Yeah. You want the cryptic one?
Hey, James, maybe while you're doing that, I could share just 10 seconds of an anecdotal story involving Tron and Ravencoin.
Oh, really?
It's,
Now
well,
that he's not here, we can talk bad about him.
no. Oh, did he just leave?
Yeah, he just left.
Oh, I wanted him to hear. Okay, I'll save it for the next time we're together. It's great. It's hilarious. You guys will love it. So there we have a cliffhanger.
All right, there you go. All right,
Okay.
guys. Talk to you guys later. Bye.